was there anything that kind of stood out to you in terms of the elevation of Georgia? Was it centered around getting the right types of players into the program, or was it like focused on the mentality? Just like what do you think separated Georgia at that point in time?
Well, Georgia did not have a shortage of great players. When I got there, Jim Donnan, the head coach prior, they recruited their tails off. They were great players. I mean, the first defense I had, by the time they all graduated, every one of them was a draft pick. You know, and they had just lost Richard Seymour and Marcus Stroud the year before, 2 first-round picks at D-line. It was just it was nuts how much talent there was there. So the cupboard was not bare by any stretch. But I think their style of preparation was just different, not necessarily wrong, but it was different than what I was used to. We were used to, you know, to practice tackling, we would tackle. You know, to practice blocking, we'd go full speed. To practice a cut block, we'd cut block, you know. And so we did a lot of scrimmaging and a lot of tackling to the ground and just some hard-nosed practices along with that off-season conditioning program I mentioned that we called mat drills. That became a big deal for us at Georgia because part of the mat drills was every drill had a finish line. And you had to finish the drill. That was the mantra, finish the drill. But finish the drill meant more than finishing the drill in the offseason. It meant when things get tough, don't quit. You know, and we played a game against Tennessee year one where we came back and won it when it looked like it was over. We celebrated in the locker room, and I was calming everybody down and telling them what had just happened. And somebody jumped up and said, "Hey, coach, we finished the drill." And I said, "That's right, we did." And so all that work we put in, that they were like, "What in the world's going on here?" They realized it was worth it. And that changed things for us.
Yeah, that's really cool. And what do you think kind of, obviously, you know, you talked about establishing a little bit of toughness and kind of differing the preparation, but it's different when the players start speaking your language, in the language of the coaching staff. So was it anything in particular that you guys did, or was it just kind of a slow, steady of like showing up every day and this is who we are, and just letting the players see that on a daily basis?
Well, really, when you go back to that scene in the locker room after that game, we had already incorporated how we were going to go about our business. And they knew that. And not only the off-season conditioning program, but discipline when it came to going to class. You know, if you don't go to class, this is what happens. I don't care who you are. You know, consistency in your discipline. Because you could tell them, I mean, every time you're the new head coach and you kind of say, here's how we're going to go about our business, they'll all nod their head at you and go, we'll see if you're serious or not. Because they're going to test it. But once they know you're serious about what you say and you're consistent in your discipline and you're consistent with how you discipline a walk-on as compared to a star, everybody knows this is the way we're going to operate. And if I want to be here, I got to do it. And so, you know, once they understand that, they quit trying you and they start realizing that, you know, there's some benefit to this, especially when you win a few big games and they could see, hey, this really did make a difference. It's worth it.
100%. And I think a lot of times, you know, we think that players or people don't want that discipline, but I found that they actually crave that discipline.
They do.
And I was going to ask, you know, how did you establish this consistency and this success? And I think you just kind of outlined it, if I'm not putting words in your mouth.
Sure. Well, when you discipline a team, discipline is truly a form of love. It's showing that you care about it. If you care about somebody enough to discipline them like your child, you know, then they know you love them. You give them boundaries. They act like they don't like boundaries, but boundaries protect people. And why do you give boundaries? Because you care about somebody. So once the players understood, coach is doing this for my benefit, not just to be, you know, act like he's the boss, I think it changes things. And when it comes to discipline, I believe you got to have an element of punishment, something that you got to stick them with, whether it's an early morning run or playing time or whatever it is. And you got to do that. Then you got to educate them and tell them, hey, this is why I'm doing it. And then 3, you got to love them. You still got to hug them and let them know you care about them. And when you discipline in that way, not discipline in anger, they'll take it better. And they'll understand, hey, this man really cares about me. I'm going to do what he says.
Yeah, and this is similar to what you just shared about Coach Bowden, about being compassionate and caring for the players and caring for what's best for them.
Yes, there's no doubt. And he was the same way with the staff. I mean, he wanted us to have a relationship with our children. He would say to us, when are you going to see your kids? And we'd be like, well, we'll see them after Thursday's practice. He's like, no, every day I want you to see your kids. You're going to either see them in the morning or you're going to see them at night. You guys decide. So we started our staff meetings at 8:30, enough time to have breakfast with the kids, take them to school, and be at the staff meeting on time and start the day. So, every single day I saw my kids at Florida State for 15 years. Every single day at Georgia, I implemented the same thing. I saw my kids until they were able to drive themselves to school. And that was, part of the Coach Bowden's legacy he left for me and my family, and the same thing I wanted for my staff as well.
Yeah, and that's so refreshing to hear, especially, a lot of times, especially in high performance sports, regardless of what sport we're talking about. It's very intense. It's long days, especially in season. And, the caring for the person is just as important as caring for the player and developing the player.
You can motivate out of fear. You can make kids do things if they want playing time or whatever it is. You can make an employee do something to a certain extent by intimidating them into it. But until you capture the heart of a person, it's going to be a reluctant obedience, so to speak. It's not going to be a bought-in person who loves where they're at and loves being a part of this team, and the team takes on a whole new meaning when the leadership starts. When the caring starts from the leadership.
Yes, it is trickle down effect for sure. And it has to come from the leader. And, you had really kind of this unbelievable run of consistency and success at Georgia. And I just want to hear from you, what were some of the common traits on all of those teams? But then also, how did the program evolve during that 15-year period?
Well, you mentioned a little bit about players taking some ownership, and in the very beginning, when you establish, how things are going to go, the coaches have to be strong leaders because the players don't know what you want yet. But after, like for us in year 2, we went 13-1, and part of our success was the leadership of our seniors and leaders in general had taken some ownership. They knew what the standard was. And when they're meeting the standard themselves and then asking it of their teammates, the coaches don't have to say a whole lot. They just got to keep everything on the rails and keep it going when you got good leadership. I mean, I can remember that season in particular. We're playing Auburn, and we got to win that game to get to the SEC championship game. And we're playing horribly in the first half and getting our butts beat. And so I'm in the locker room getting ready to decide what I'm going to say to the team before we hit the field again. And off in the distance, I hear one of the players giving everybody hell. And it was John Stinchcomb, our senior offensive lineman, just saying, hey, man, I didn't come here to lose. I came here to win a championship. And this is it. This is our last shot. And I'm not playing good, and you guys aren't playing good. We got to, so he read the riot act. And so when it was my time to talk, I was like, what he said, I mean, there was nothing to add. John had done it. And the guys responded, and we came back and won that game in dramatic fashion. But it never would have happened without the leadership of John Stinchcomb and the rest of the seniors on that team.